Thank you. Thank you so much. I want to start, before I speak about the award and how honored I am, to just give you some numbers, sobering numbers. The number of the martyrs in Gaza has reached 9,061, including 3,760 children, 2,326 women, injured 32,000. This is at 7 o'clock this morning. 15 massacres in 24 hours, 256 people killed, 2,060 people missing under the rubble. One massacre, over 800 families had been wiped out. The bombs that have been dropped equal more than the bomb that has been dropped on Hiroshima. Israel continues to pound Gaza because Palestinians refuse to submit. I just want you to take one moment of silence, just to honor the people who have passed, who have sacrificed for all our freedoms. First, I acknowledge the indigenous people on whose land we meet today. Secondly, I am so honored that American Studies Association, its award committee, has selected me as a co-recipient of the Angela Davis Award, along with my colleague, sister comrade, and former Professor Kathy Cohen. I have a lot of stories to tell, but not today. I also express my sincere thanks to my students, colleagues, and community members who nominated me and who have collectively recognized my life's work. And I thank Angela Davis, after whom this award is named, for her inspiring leadership, intellect, and passion, and why she and other members of the 2011 Indigenous and Women of Color Feminist Delegation were so revered in Palestine. And I'm looking at one of them today, my colleague Barbara Ransby, sitting right there. Words cannot capture my gratitude to my international communities of justice, especially in Palestine, whose resilience, resistance, and steadfastness keep me going, resisting and defying the attacks to which I've been subjected. Only 2 days ago, acting at the behest and in collusion with Zionist groups, Syracuse University Press canceled the lecture I was going to give, organized by the African Graduate Student Network, Black Student Union, and the African American Studies Department. We were going together to learn and teach each other. Receiving Angela Davis Award reflects an affirmation of the principles and anti-colonial transnational turn in American studies that has increasingly centered justice in its production of knowledge. This includes the clear and equivocal recognition of the genocidal history of U.S. settled colonialism in Turtle Island, the kidnapping and forced enslavement of African people, the exclusion of Chinese people, the concentration camps of the Japanese, shutting down the doors to Jews and other victims of Nazism and the Holocaust, the deportation of leftists, Marxists, and anarchists, McCarthyism, and COINTELPRO. These systemic strategies have officially sanctioned assassination, criminalization, and incarceration of movements that have courageously defied and refused to treat repression as business as usual, and inspired by the opposition to the U.S. war in Vietnam. I'm cutting down because I would like to move on. I'm especially grateful that the American Studies Association has rejected new McCarthyism and awarded me this award. However, this honor is bittersweet. It comes at a very painful moment for Palestinians and all people of conscience around the world. As I received news of this award, people in Gaza and throughout Palestine are facing genocide at the hand of the violent Israeli settler colonial regime. Let's not forget that this genocide has been accompanied by daily raids, bombings, killings, theft of land of crops, and its destruction in other Palestinian and other areas, Arab areas occupied in 1967, including the Palestinian and the Golan Heights, as well as South Lebanon, and among Palestinians in the 48 areas under Israeli rule, which we do not hear about. This relentless destruction of all forms of Palestinian life is anything but random. This is a deliberate, intentional, and systematic design to erase and eradicate Palestine. How else can the Zionist settler colonial project justify and realize its motto of a land without people for a people without a land? Crush the Palestinian spirit of steadfastness and silence and intimidate any criticism of the Israeli fascist state. Here in the Palestinian Shaddad, too, we are experiencing heightened censorship and repression and the overtly Islamophobic, Orientalist, and colonial feminist and queer discourses and actions against Palestinians, Arabs, Muslims, as well as our allies. But collectively, we have been subjected to an orchestrated campaign of terror. To me, as I'm sure to many of my colleagues, inaction is not an option. We must place the voices and liberation of Palestine and all oppressed people at the center of our scholarship, pedagogy, and advocacy. We cannot, even for a moment, ignore the genocide and siege in Gaza and elsewhere in the world. Perhaps I don't need to repeat that silence is complicity, as our siblings in Jewish Voice for Peace, if not now, International Jewish Anti-Zionist Network, and many of our anti-Zionist Jewish organizations have loudly and clearly said, never again for anyone, never again for anyone, and not in our name. These siblings are our allies, with whom we will build a different Palestine, a future Palestine. To be recognized by the ASA, especially at this critical time, illustrates without a doubt the unwavering principled stand, love and solidarity ASA has manifested, and since its historical vote 10 years ago in response to the call for boycott, divestment and sanctions by Palestinian civil society. The high cost exerted by the ASA leadership and membership, including at our respective institutions, has been violently resisted, winning one of the most important victories and defeating the forces of new McCarthy. The subud, steadfastness of ASA against threat and even the federal lawsuit clearly demonstrates that resisting oppression and standing up for justice for all does and can produce victories. These are not hollow, empty slogans. In making its internationalist term, ASA has modeled in materialist terms to our people's movements that fought and continue to fight against colonial, racial, and all forms of violence, demonstrating that defeat is not inevitable. We can and we will win when we come together, collectively resist oppression and repression, and loudly say, as Palestinian poet Samih al-Qasim, whose words were rewritten and found in the cell of the martyr George Jackson, enemy of the sun, we will not surrender nor compromise, and to the last inch of our blood, we will resist and resist and resist. Thank you.
Free, free Palestine! Woo! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine!
winner of the Angela Davis Prize is Kathy Cohen. Dr. Cohen is a David and Mary Linton Green Distinguished Service Professor of Political Science at the University of Chicago. She is the author of the award-winning book, Boundaries of Blackness, AIDS, and the Breakdown of Black Politics, and the field-redefining article, Punks, Bull Daggers, and Welfare Queens, The Radical Potential of Queer Politics, which I just gave to my brother, who's a lawyer, who loved it. That let him see some things about Janelle Monáe that he wasn't willing to see. She served on the board of the Transformative Kitchen Table Press and was a member of the steering committee which founded the Audre Lorde Project, also known as AOP, the country's first LGBTQ of color. It had a longer name than that, of color organizing center, which I have to say I know numerous American Studies folks who got their start there. It was where I had a political home that allowed me to survive graduate school at NYU. Dr. Cohen is also founded the Black Youth Project and was instrumental in the founding of BYP 100, a member-based youth organization fighting against the carceral state and anti-Blackness. At the University of Chicago, she has served several stints as director of the Center for the Study of Race, Politics, and Culture, chaired the Department of Political Science, and is currently serving as chair of the newly formed